So you service your car at a dealership. Do you ever wonder, are they shady? Are they good? Are they doing the right thing? What's going on here? Folks, I spent a long time in my career working at a dealership, and I kind of understand the internal culture of a dealership, and I wanted to share that with you. How do you spot a shady dealership? How do you spot a good one? And what is the general things you should and you should not do when dealing with a dealership's service department? Right after this. Let's talk about the dealership culture so you can actually understand things from the other side. I worked at a dealership for a very long time, and to sum it up, here's the best way I would describe dealerships. Dealerships are an organized chaos. No matter how nice the dealership is and how big it is and how flashy and nice and beautiful it is always chaotic. That's just how every single dealership runs. It's extremely difficult in the automotive industry to keep things organized. And what makes that problem 10 times worse is having so many people work in the same building that does automotive and different departments, and they're all... Let us get into it a little bit and you'll see why. Every time you hear the words from a dealership, oh, let our team take care of it, that is just not the case. Folks, dealerships don't operate in teams, and usually whenever they operate in a team, things are not as good as you expect them to be. Here's the best description of a dealership environment. It is not a team environment, that's for sure, and the reality is, it is a shark eat shark world. It's very competitive. Departments compete with each other. Inside each department, co-workers compete with each other. Not always, but that's a very high percentage. We can say almost always. Let me explain to you what happens when you walk in the dealership and what the roles are. The first person you see when you drive into the service drive at the dealership and you open the door, there's that very friendly face saying, hello, welcome to ABC dealership. How can we help you today? 90% of the time, that's actually a service porter. Nothing against porters, but we have to say the truth here. Porters, their job is very simple, and usually that's a position that is held by students, people looking for a short-term employment, then they're gone, because all their job is open the door, hi, how you doing? Put covers on the seats, park the car up, go wash the car, bring the car to the front. That's all they do. However, this is the problems. Some porters assume, because they are the front line of the dealership, they assume they are the experts of everything. And they start talking too much. And you, coming into the dealership, you assume that they really know what they're talking about, but 100% of the time, they actually don't. So the first person that greets you, unless they are clearly marked as service advisor, they are not the source of information. No offense against porters, but that is actually not their job, and they sometimes assume that role, and they shouldn't. The second person you're going to talk to, or sometimes that is the first person you talk to, depends how busy or slow the dealership is. The service advisor, the biggest blessing and problem at the same time with all dealerships. See, the service advisor job is to be the link between you, the customer, and the technician. That's their sole purpose, to be there. Good service advisors will make a huge impact on your experience at a dealership, because service advisors are not salesmen. When they become salesmen is when the problem starts. I understand that they will try to give you the prices, they will try to sell you things, and this is partially part of their job. But the most important quality in a service advisor is their technical knowledge. They are not mechanics. They're not actually going to do the work, but they need to understand how everything works in a car so they can explain it to you in non-technical terms, so they can actually be fully informed, and hopefully they are honest enough to tell you the right thing. Hey, this car needs a lot of work. I don't think it's worth it, brother. You need to get rid of this car. They need to be brave enough to say that. I own my own shop now. That's a very tough thing to do, and it takes a lot of courage, and kind of you have to clamp down your emotions and then shut down the doors to your heart and just say it as it is. It's very tough, I understand, but not everybody can do that or willing to do that or feel like we're paid enough to do that. So this is the problem with advisors. They sometimes will not tell you the truth as it is, not because they're lying and they're scheming and all that, but because they're literally afraid of you, for lack of a better word, and that is a big mistake. That is the service advisor. Then at the very, very last of the list is the technician. The guy that fixes your car, the guy or gal that fixes your car. The person you actually came to the dealership to see, which you never talk to, you don't even know their name. Sometimes you will see their name on the final invoice. Sometimes you just see the number. They're just a number. This is a person you actually came to the dealership to see, but you never see, never interact with. And that's the chaotic part of a dealership. Technicians usually, and I will say this with confidence, 75% of the time, what the technician says never makes it to you because of that middle person. If the middle person is good, they're going to immediately tell you exactly the findings as they are, not watered down, not sugar-coated, the truth as it is. Because we are professionals. My job is not to make you happy. My job is to fix your car. And if your car has a lot of problems, then guess what? I apologize, but I don't. Your car needs a lot of work, and this is how much it's going to cost. Now, the conversation of is it worth it, is it not, what is priority, what is not, that is a different conversation. But the truth has to be laid out on the table in its complete form, not cut, not sugar-coated. And that's the break. That's the first line of break. When you tell the advisor things, and those things that you told the advisor about your problem with your car, don't make it to the technician. That's the first break in communication. That is very common, and that has to do with the organized chaos. And then the second part of that problem is when the technician says something and the advisor either doesn't understand, doesn't want to say it, doesn't want to deal with it, and you hear a baked version of what actually is there, or half of it is missing. That's the problem. And then the other, I'm not attacking service advisors here, but now we're going to switch over to my brethrens. When they do not communicate with the service advisor, technician finds things, doesn't tell the service advisor about them until the very last minute when it's too late. Lack of communication, that organized chaos part. Technician is too in a rush to get things in and out so he can move on to the next car. Doesn't communicate effectively and doesn't share his professional opinion. Hey, this is what this car needs, but I don't think this car is in good condition, because the advisor is not a mechanic. He doesn't have eyes. He's not going to come out and look at the car. He is relying on the technician to give him the full picture, uninterrupted, unchanged, the way it is. But if they don't get that picture from the technician, well, what are they going to do? They can't, and they're going to give you misinformed information, and everything goes down from there. Let me share with you the biggest red flags at dealerships. Folks, dealerships, service departments are usually, they're not nice. They're barely nice, if that. And they're usually dry and just, okay, what do you want? Almost. That's the reality of things. It's a very tough environment to work in. So if all of a sudden, the dealership was barely nice, and all of a sudden they roll the red carpet and they are going above and beyond and going the extra 25 miles, there is nothing more of a red flag than that. Something went seriously south, and they're already working you up to some disaster that's coming up the way. That's usually your biggest red flag. If all of a sudden the way they treat you changes, red flag. Because if I am very tired, my personality is not the biggest one that talkative and all that. All of a sudden I change that in 180 degrees. There's something going on. That's always the case. Again, you're there to fix your car, not make friends. So the advisor needs to be friendly, but to the point. Good service advisors will know what they are talking about, will know what they are doing, and usually when they have big stuff, they will show you on your car, not just, oh yeah, it needs this. And bad service advisors will finish every sentence with, it's too complicated to explain to you. That means, let me translate that to you. I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm just reading it off a paper and hoping to make a sale. That's what that usually means. And that should be your biggest red flag. The service advisor's job, and good service advisors that I have worked with for years, will keep going at it until you fully understand what's going on with your car and have no further questions about it. That's very important. That communication, you need to work with an expert, not a glorified salesman. That is not the way it should be. Service advisor should explain to you everything in detail until you fully understand what's going on with your car. And the second thing is upsells. That's the biggest red flag in the planet. Every time you hear the word flush or cleaning, you need to hold on and research and understand, because that's usually the typical upsells at a dealership. Oh, let's flush this fluid, let's flush that, let's clean this, let's clean that. Most of the time, we need to meet our quota. The honest truth. Sometimes it is truthful and some maintenance need to be done to this car, but usually it's always done earlier, pushed, let's do this in a rush. That's another big red flag. And the biggest red flag when it comes to upsells and flush this and clean that is when things are done on the fly. You drive your car to the dealership, you have an appointment for an oil change or a tire rotation or a 30,000 mile service or whatever the case may be. And all of a sudden the advisor, oh, your car needs, the transmission fluid needs to be changed. Oh, and that coolant needs to be changed. And you need to clean these injectors. And you need to flush this fluid. And you need to clean that. You haven't even looked at my car. Well, how do you know all this is needed? I understand some things are due by mileage and time and all that. But don't we want to make sure that this car is safe first? Don't we want to make sure we looked at the car, made sure? Did we even look at the service history, make sure this stuff was not done? The number one thing I get from dealerships is people go into the dealership, they just did this stuff themselves. They just changed the filters themselves, literally hours before going to the dealership. And as soon as they pull up a dealership, oh, it's been a very long time since you changed your air filter, cabin filter. Do you want to change them? Well, I just changed them 2 hours ago, unless they magically got dirty. This is the biggest red flag. They need to look at your car before they determine what it needs, not just by getting the miles off of it. That's one of the biggest red flags with dealerships, folks, that you really need to be watchful for. Here's some things you can do that will make your experience at the car dealership service department a positive one. Things, if we are assuming that this is a good dealership with good people working on it, they're trying to do the right thing. Don't walk in with an attitude that you know everything about everything. Even if you actually do, don't. I have been to dealerships as a customer. I usually just zip it. Don't say anything. Let them, I guess the expression is, let them trample the mud on their own so you can actually see it. Because when the service advisor starts telling you things that makes absolutely no sense, and you know what you're talking about, you will immediately catch them and see it. But if you've already told them, oh, I know everything about cars, I'm a mechanic, I'm this and that, you already took that out of the window. Don't do that. And the biggest thing you should never say, and we've said this in a video before, I want to iterate, don't say I know nothing about cars. That is the biggest red flag from you and the biggest green light for a bad service advisor to take advantage. Don't do that. Instead, walk in, keep the small talk small, focus on the car. Be direct, be concise. And the biggest, most important thing is, if you want honesty, meet honesty with honesty. If you mess something up, say it. It takes a lot of courage, but say it. Be clear about the full scope of the problem. Hey, I have a problem. I went to X mechanic, they couldn't figure it out, they actually made it worse. So now I am coming to you, please figure it out. And here are the full details of the issue. If you have a video, share it. If you have pictures, share it. If you have the specific conditions where this problem happens, share it. But keep the small talk away. Because usually what I see at dealerships, from my experience, the customer starts having small talk with the advisor and they get carried away, and then the advisor, oh yeah, go wait in the waiting room. Well, you never gave him any of the details, and these details, when they don't make it to the technician, you get your favorite phrase, cannot duplicate concern. I can't find the problem because you never gave me any of the details. We kept talking about football and all kinds of non-related subjects. We never really talked about the problem of the car. Keep the small talk small, focus on the car. That is very important. And the most important thing, keep things honest from your side if you want to receive honesty back. So what do you do if you have problems with the car dealership service department? Folks, this is very important that you do one thing. Refrain from yelling, screaming, shouting, threatening, all this jazz. Avoid that because that gets you nowhere with a car dealership. If anything, it closes the doors completely. Because dealerships are a private entity. They actually can refuse to work on your car. Remember that, at least in the United States, that is the case. They can tell you, sir, we don't want to work on your car. Have a nice day. They can do that. So refrain from doing these things. And here's how you approach problems. Approach them with calm but firmness. You did this work on my car. Now there's this problem that is completely related to it. Or flat out, I came in for this problem. You didn't fix it. And you charge me for it. Be firm in affirming that this is the problem, but don't attack. Just state the facts and see how they respond. Watch their response. Because good dealerships, if you are right and they mess something up, they will take care of it. Simple as that. That's the expected outcome. Speaking of expected outcomes, don't expect miracles. This is the problem that I see. People come in with the anticipation that they're going to go above and beyond and they're going to do unrealistic things. They scratched your car. The expectation is fix it. Simple as that. Not the expectation is we're going to give you a new car or we're going to paint the whole car or we're going to give you lifetime oil changes. Mistakes happen, folks. We all make mistakes. And the first question you want to ask yourself is, do you do such mistakes at your workplace? We all make mistakes. That's the beauty of being human. We're imperfect. The other thing is you have a wheel that got damaged. Well, they will fix it. They will refinish the wheel and take care of you. But don't expect a new wheel. Realistic expectations. Because equally, to dealerships taking advantage of people and having a horrible reputation, and they deserve it in most cases. But there are dealerships that are good. And those good dealerships usually get taken advantage of by customers that are disgruntled from other bad dealerships. I'll give you an example, and I remember this one like I will never forget this in my life. At the dealership that I worked at, we had a car wash, and when the car wash was down, and whether whatever the case, they give people little coupons. Hey, we couldn't wash your car today, but when the weather is nicer, bring it in and we'll wash it. Here's a little coupon. There was a lady that took this coupon, scanned it in her home, and made thousands of copies, and she would come in every week for a free car wash until it's like, we changed the look of the coupon, and it's like, where are you getting these coupons from? Are you printing them at your home? She was, and that was really bad. That's when people take advantage of dealership. Folks, be realistic of your expectation, and then the most important thing, before we finish this video, the hierarchy of a dealership. When you have a problem, don't jump the hierarchy list. Go to your service advisor. Inform them of the problem, not yelling and screaming. Just tell them, hey, there's a problem. If they don't do anything, ask to speak to the service manager. Then ask to speak to the service director. And if all fails, ask to speak with the dealership principal. Usually, they are very difficult to get a hold of, and they think they are the king of the castle, but they are not. They're just normal human beings that run a business. But that's the hierarchy. Don't go from the first problem, I want to speak to the owner of the dealership. You skipped everybody and they will no longer want to help you because you skipped them. Give everybody a chance. Dealerships, good dealerships, when they make a mistake, they will make it right, but not make miracles happen. Things should be realistic. And before we wrap up the video, folks, some dealerships do really horrible, shady stuff. And they deserve that bad reputation so much, and they make my stomach turn. And we've done a video recently about an example of that. But the problem with that is other dealerships are actually good and out there to do the right thing. They kind of get a mask over them because of these bad practices. And here's the best way for me to sum it up for you. There are good dealerships with bad folks working in them, doing shady stuff. And there are bad dealerships with good folks working in them. I hope that makes sense, because the shady stuff sometimes comes from the top. And the employees are kind of forced to follow these things. And sometimes you get one bad apple come out of that shady higher management that moves to a good dealership and starts kind of spreading the bad stuff. That's the reality. So it comes down to this. You need to get to know the people that work at the dealership, starting with your service advisor. If you feel like the service advisor did you right, explained everything, didn't overcharge on things, did things right, and you felt comfortable, you started to build that relationship of trust, ask for them the next time you go there. Then the most important thing, get to know your technician. Folks, I work at a dealership, sometimes months pass, we don't even talk to a single customer. That's the sad reality, and that should change with dealerships. But get to know your technician, because if you like their quality of work and you never have issues with this one technician, ask for them. Know their schedule. Know them by name. Shake their hand and tell them, I like your work. I would like to continue for you to work on my car, and specifically ask for this one advisor, one technician, and build a relationship with them. Just like a small mom and pop shop. People love small independent shops like our shop. You come in the door, we talk about your car. I'm going to sit with you face to face and talk about your car, because we don't have 17 advisors and all this stuff. That's the personal connection like that. At the dealership, that sometimes is lost. But you can establish it. You can ask for it. Get to know your advisor, get to know your technician, and now it's the same as a mom and pop shop. That's a reality, folks. But you have to work on that. Build a relationship of trust with a dealership. You're not going to have issues, as long as it is a good dealership and not one of those shady ones that give everybody else a really bad reputation. Folks, I hope this video was helpful and informative. I hope you learned something new. If you like it, consider giving it a thumbs up. If you're not a subscriber, consider subscribing to the channel. Check out some videos. Until the next video, folks, may the Lord bless you and keep you, and you have yourself a wonderful day.